since I just got out of work. It was in the morning. She's like, all right, yeah, sweet. But then she was like, all right, we just gotta get like get the laundry done. I was like, oh, okay. But then it was like all the laundry.
Right,
So I'm like,
right.
all right. And then
Yeah.
I like had to do something, and the kitchen was like a mess. I had to clean the kitchen. So by the time I actually like stopped doing everything that needed to get done, my niece had to get off the bus. So
Right.
I was just like, oh well, there
It's
goes my
over.
day.
Yeah. That's how it
But,
goes.
no,
Alright, let me pick you up.
but I still need to see Black Panther very badly. But Amber has free movie passes that she got from work, so I just need to like use them.
Yeah. I have Movie Pass, which is cool. It's $10 a month, and you can go once a day for free.
Nice.
Yeah. We're
Yeah, I
live.
saw that. That looks cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
I don't go to the movies that much, but I feel like if I had that, I would go more often.
Yeah. I
Cause
haven't
it's
gone
like
since I've
it's.
had it, which is the funny thing.
Isn't that always how it goes? Like I was like going for runs all the time and like doing all this stuff, and then like, all right, you know what? I think I'm ready. I'm gonna get a gym membership because
And then you
I've
never
been working out,
go.
and then I never go. It's like it's just how it goes. I'm like, oh my god, oh frick it. But you said we're live. We're good.
Yeah, oh
Awesome.
yeah, we're good. I'm gonna share the link on Talking Sith, and we're good. We're up.
Sweet. I'll make sure I can keep an eye on me.
And I'm gonna search
So
for.
yeah, I did have I mean, I know that for the most part it's been pretty stagnant. The any Star Wars like kind of news, just because we're like really in that period where we're waiting on um, the Han Solo
Solo.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but even though Disney is definitely like they are working right now. I just saw that Winnie the Pooh teaser trailer,
Yep. Yep.
and
They got a lot
that was
going
freaking
on.
awesome.
Black
That
Panther's
was awesome.
smashing records.
Yeah.
They
It
got a
was
lot
nice
on
to
their plate.
see.
They pushed Infinity War up by a week.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought I was like, I was surprised by that. I wondered if it was because it's just like super done and they want to get it out, or
No,
if
I
there's
mean it was
like
coming out that
there's
day
still reasons.
internationally, but it was coming out a week later in the U.S. So now it's just
Uh,
coming out the same day everywhere.
right. I don't think we're in the same game. All right, I need to back out.
I don't know. I
Um,
searched by you, so I think I'm joining you. But yeah.
oh,
So it was coming out internationally on April 27th and in the U.S. on May 4th, but now it's just coming out everywhere April 27th.
right,
So
right.
that'll be
Okay.
cool. And then May 25th will be Solo, so that's pretty sick. And then
Yeah, it's
March
gonna be.
27th is the Last Jedi Blu-ray release.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah. So March is the closest thing that's happening.
yeah,
I think because that's like that's this month. Oh wait, is it March yet? Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
it's March. We're a week
Yeah,
into
it is.
March.
Yeah, we're a week into March now, aren't we? It's getting there. Uh, yeah. So that's the nearest thing that's happening is the Blu-ray release, which is pretty cool because I've been wanting to see it again, just like being able to sit at home and like
Yeah,
overanalyze it like way too
plus a
much,
ton of
which would
deleted
be.
scenes and everything.
Yeah. Plus, I love the behind the scenes stuff. Like I'm a
Yep,
sucker for all that stuff. So.
same.
Um, I can't wait for that. But also because Amber didn't see it, and she's more apt to watch it if we have the Blu-ray. So,
Yeah, I only
um,
watched it the first weekend. I saw it 3 times, but nowhere near as much as I watched Force Awakens. So I'm excited.
right. Yeah, I saw The Force Awakens like much more spread out too. Like I watched it a decent amount, but like I saw it like, like more like over like
Yeah,
pretty
over
much
like
the
a
entire
month and a
time
half.
using.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so it was pretty much
I mean,
stuck
I
in
didn't
my
have the
brain
baby
even by the
then,
time
so
I
like
bought it.
if I was bored or I was coming home from work and there was, nothing
Yeah.
going on in the evening, I would just go to the movie. But now
Yeah,
with the baby,
exactly.
everything's different. Get
Yeah.
off my toes. But yeah, I didn't see this one nearly as much as I had thought I was going to or wanted to. And
Yeah, I just didn't have the time,
yeah,
honestly.
exactly. Oh my
And so
God.
if I did, then I would have saw more. But I'm excited that the Blu-ray's coming out this month because
Yeah.
I'm stoked for everything that's coming. Plus, there's a lot of cool stuff with the if anybody's into books and
behind the
comic
scenes,
books
yeah, and
and
then the
all that
toys and
kind of stuff.
everything. I know they're
Toys,
coming
there's a
out with
lot of
the
stuff coming out. So.
Avengers Legos now, and they'll start with the
Oh yeah,
solo
that's true.
Legos next month, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
But
I
yeah,
can't wait for that.
the Best Buy has the Steelbook for the Blu-ray on pre-order right now, so I
Oh,
have that pre-ordered.
nice,
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
nice.
Like you
When
said,
is that
rewatch it.
again?
The 27th of this month, so
Okay, sweet.
three Tuesdays from this week, 3 weeks from yesterday.
Sweet. This will be a quick couple months. There's so much going on. So like the
Oh yeah,
Blu-ray's
this
coming
is where it
out.
gears up, and then the summer's gonna fly by, and then by the fall we'll have
Yeah.
more Marvel movies and
Yep.
lots
Yep. And
going
then
on.
by the time next time we blink, with freaking episode 9,
Yep.
we'll be hearing stuff about that. Like, I mean, but when is that scheduled for? Sometime in December of
May.
2019, right?
Uh,
May.
May, yeah.
May of 20. So yeah, by the time we turn
Well,
around, that's
although
gonna be
we talked
we're
about
gonna
that a
be
couple weeks
at
ago, I don't
least
remember
here.
if it got delayed when they switched directors. I seem to remember
Oh, I
that.
don't
So
know.
maybe it got delayed to December of that year, but either way, it's next year.
Yeah, so by the time all of this winds up, like, is all finished up and we can, like, settle down from all, like, this busy part of the year, and especially if you're into, like, video games, too, April's a busy time of year.
I was gonna say, we got
Um,
E3 coming up. We'll hear about some of the new
yeah,
Star Wars games. We'll get some
yeah,
Battlefront content, I'm sure, at some point.
I
Um,
pray, yeah, I
yeah, plus
pray.
Far Cry is coming out in like 2 weeks. I'm really stoked about that.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, if it's if you're into video games as well as Star Wars, then this is just a busy time of year anyway, because
Yeah.
it's just that time of year. It's right before E3, so if you're gonna drop something, people tend to drop it, or if there's gonna be news, then you're getting ready to get
Yeah,
it
we'll get a
together
Kingdom
for
Hearts release
E3.
date probably. We'll get some
Oh,
holiday
if we don't get a
information.
freaking Kingdom Hearts release date at this point. I swear to goodness, I can't believe it's been like, what is it, like 12, 15 years almost since the first game came out? Like, that's absolutely
13. Well, no,
that's
longer
absurd.
than that. I think it's been
It's
13
gotta be
years
like,
since the second game.
yeah, no, it's been
I
like
think the
15
second
years
game was
since the game came out.
2005. I honestly, I don't know right off the top of my head. Let me Google it real quick now that the game's over.
It's
But
been a ridiculous
it's a
amount
long
of
time.
It's been an absurd amount of time, and it's frustrating because at this point it's like it's not at this point it's like I'm a grown man. Like I
Yeah, I
started
know.
playing that game. I started playing that game
Kingdom
when I
Hearts
was
1
a
was
child.
2001.
Yeah. Oh
Literally
my
the same
God.
year as 9/11. We got Kingdom
That's
Hearts 1. And Kingdom
that's
Hearts
crazy.
2 was December 22nd, 2005.
That's crazy.
That's
That's
insane.
absolutely crazy. That we're now finally getting it. And you know what am really nervous about is that it's not going to wrap up the story. Like
I think it'll be
somehow
like
it
contained, like a narrative that makes sense. You know what I
right,
mean? Like it'll have key characters and key plot lines. Whereas
right.
I think that it'll probably be, what am I trying to say? Like I'm sure it won't be like this is the end. Like it'll probably set up a whole slew of other games. But
Oh, I hope not. Like,
I don't mind
please
if it
let this
does, as
end.
long. But I do think that the story for like
I
Kingdom
want
Hearts 1
Sora's.
and 2 both had strong endings. You know what I mean? So I think it'll have
Yeah,
a
definitely.
strong ending. Just like, but 1 and 2 didn't have. I wouldn't call them cliffhangers, but you knew there was going to be more games. I think this will be
Well, that's what I
similar to
mean.
that.
After two more than one. I felt like one, you could have been like, all right, this is over,
Yeah,
and then
except
like
that they were going to find Rikun.
exactly, yeah. But like two, I felt like definitely left more questions for me anyway, where I was like, all right, there's definitely going to be a third game, and then
Right.
that's why. For so long, I'm like, oh
Plus,
my
they had that
god, how
secret
did he not have
trailer
a
and
third game?
everything, and no one knew what it was for. Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly. It's like,
It's been way too long. But I mean, it's Square. Like, how long has
yeah.
Square toyed with Final Fantasy people? I mean, it's just this is how they do
Yeah, that's what
things.
they do, man. But you know what? They put out like they put out classics, so it's like I can't really be upset with them, but at the same time, like, geez, give me my freaking game. But I will say, I was happy to see all that stuff we saw with Toy Story and Monsters Inc. And
Yeah, everything they've
there's
shown looks really good. So
there's
hopefully,
gonna be
it's
Star
pretty good.
Wars in it. There's
No,
going
there's
to
not.
be.
No, you're wrong.
There has
There
to
won't be
be.
any Star Wars or Marvel. I'll bet you $100.
Really, I feel like
Hmm.
that's a missed opportunity.
No,
I feel like
I
it.
think
I
that
mean,
they.
obviously, it's going to be good either way, but I feel like seeing some Star Wars in there would be
I don't think it
fantastic.
would be very good. I
Stuff
think a
from
lightsaber
sabers.
keyblade would be the only cool part about it because
That would be the dopest part.
I think that the when Kingdom Hearts goes to its live action Disney franchises are the worst
Yeah,
parts. Like when they went to Pirates, it was terrible.
yeah.
It just didn't work in the Kingdom Hearts universe. And
Really, you
when
didn't like it?
I mean it was the weakest level by far. And when they went to Tron, Tron was
Yeah.
cooler than Pirates, but Tron is
Tron, I like
different.
less than Pirates actually, which is funny because I
Well, I
like
just mean it was
Pirates. I like
cooler
the
in terms of like a world that translated to the Kingdom Hearts world. Whereas
You
Pirates,
know what?
like you
I
just
don't.
felt like you were thrown in.
Yeah. For some reason, all I remember when I remember the Tron level is that there was this really difficult chest to get to. Or was it a chest or was it one of the Dalmatians? But I
I
can't, I
don't
can't
remember.
remember. But I remember there was one that was really hard to get to, and it took me so long. And I just remember being on the Tron level forever because of that. But yeah, either way, I don't know. You might be right. You might,
I'm
because you know
positive.
what, those were the weaker levels. I mean, the whole game is so strong that
Yeah,
it's hard to be
I
like,
mean,
oh,
just
but
remember how cool it
you
was
know,
to
they
play
are the
like
weaker levels.
Tarzan or Nightmare Before Christmas or
That was the
even
best
or like
level, hands down.
Mulan or whatever. Like all those levels are
Oh, I
just
didn't mean to cancel matchmaking. My
um,
bad.
just way better. So I think that they'll probably stick to that, especially since it's been so long.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
I don't know.
There's been so many
I
movies
guarantee
too,
it.
and it's not that I haven't kept up with the newer movies. It's just that they don't like. I'm wondering if they're gonna make this game for like younger, like like Frozen and
No,
Moana,
yeah. Well, I
and
mean,
you know what I
the
mean?
first games had like Winnie the Pooh and stuff, so I think we'll see
Yeah,
some of that. I think we'll probably see like if we don't see a Frozen World, we'll probably see like an Olaf
yeah.
summon or something like that. And
Plus,
then
I think we're definitely gonna see throwbacks to the old
I don't know
Kingdom
why I
Hearts
can't
game. So
find
we're
the
gonna
game.
see like stuff that like you know brings us back to like that feeling of like I really hope we see like a Traverse Town and
Oh, we will.
um
Yeah,
things like
that's in
that.
everyone. Yeah, we'll see that. We'll
I want to
see.
see Gummy. I want to see the shipbuilding come back
I
like it did,
agree.
like more like the first game than it was in the second game.
Yeah, I
Like
agree
the
with that.
first game was way better with the gummy ships. The second game, I almost was like, you could take the gummy ships out and I wouldn't care.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But like
I
the
think
first
that
game,
they'll
I love the
probably
gummy shipbuilding.
um I know. I mean, what do we know? We know we have Tangled, which I've never
Yeah,
seen. We know we have
yeah.
Monsters Incorporated
Tangled's
and
pretty good actually. I won't lie. I like Tangled.
whatchamacallit,
My daughter loves that one.
Toy Story. I mean, it's
Toy
cool that they're
Story is gonna be
incorporating
fun.
Pixar, but I think that's about as much as they'll, you know, do that's new. You know what I mean? Like the fact that
Yeah,
they're doing Pixar means that they could
yeah.
not do Star Wars or Marvel and say, well, we did Pixar. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and you know what? They could do anything and they'd be fine.
yeah,
It's
they could do
Disney.
like Wreck-It
You know
Ralph.
what
They
I
could do.
mean?
There's so many
Yeah.
properties.
Which
So
I heard,
it would
I
be
heard
cool.
that was a possibility. Wreck-It Ralph. I don't remember where I saw that, but I remember that is or was it that Wreck-It Ralph is getting a sequel? What am I
Wreck-It
remembering?
Ralph
I
has
think
a
it maybe
sequel coming out this year.
that maybe that's what I remember.
The
But
trailer came out last week. But actually, we talked about Wreck-It Ralph on Talking Sith last week because it's the
right.
first Disney movie since they purchased everything they've purchased to have
Yeah.
Marvel, Disney, Pixar, and Star Wars all in the same movie. Like there's
Oh,
a
they're gonna put
cameo
it
by
all
a
in the
Star
same
Wars
film.
character, there's a cameo by a Pixar character, a Marvel character, and obviously there's
Okay, so
Disney characters.
if it's a video game movie, what Star Wars character is it gonna be?
Well, it's
It's
set
got
in
to
the
be Mark
internet,
Hamill.
so like you should watch the trailer. The trailer came out last week, but it's
Oh,
set
I haven't seen it.
in the internet. So they see like all the original Disney princesses are in it, and most of them, all
Oh,
but
that's so funny.
Aurora, reprise their roles. And the only reason for that is
No
because
way. That's
Aurora is
so
super
funny.
duper old, and she's like
He can't
16
do the
year old.
voice anymore. Yeah.
But like Mulan is the original actress, Ariel, Jasmine. I think they're all
Oh, no
credited in the
way.
movie. So yeah, I don't really know how that comes into play, but yeah, the movie's set inside the internet.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
yeah, it'll be good. I mean, I like the first one, so But
I
yeah,
don't know why
Disney,
Disney gets so
Pixar,
much
Star Wars, and
crap,
Marvel.
man. They're really making me happy lately. Like, I don't know. Everything Disney does lately, I'm like, good for you, Disney. Like, I'm liking what you're doing. I don't
Yeah,
know. People
I
get
mean,
so
as
upset
far
with
as I'm
Disney,
concerned,
and
like even if you don't like it, just you do you. Like it's Disney. They can make 100 movies, and even if you only like 50 of them, you just liked 50 movies. So I mean, there's
yeah,
really not much to complain about unless you just like to
yeah, no,
complain.
yeah, exactly, which most people do. But I'm excited about a lot of
Oh
what
my
they
God,
have
I can't
going,
get a kill.
especially in the Star Wars realm. But I saw some interesting stuff that I thought would be cool to talk about. At least just theoretically, because it's interesting. I saw that in the novelization of the Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and this is just like kind of like a potential leak from the book, so we can only, we have to take it with a grain of salt type of thing. But
Yeah, I guess the
in the no-
novelization is like extended. Like there's an extended version of the novelization that I was reading about.
yeah,
I haven't read it
yeah,
itself, but I heard about that too.
yeah. So but there's in that novelization it says at one point in time there was a line that said um Luke was kind of like staring off in the distance. Like Luke stood in the cooling sands of Tatooine with his wife by his side. So now there's this idea out there in the stratosphere that Luke has, at some point in time before The Last Jedi and after Return,
Been married,
uh, he had a wife,
right?
which is interesting.
Yeah,
Because that, like, I don't know if does that, like, because I was just interested to see, because I was thinking, like, does that change the character at all and make kind of the Luke we saw that was more curmudgeon-y make more sense? Because if he lost his wife, that would obviously give us more of an understanding of why he was so adamant about not helping
yeah.
Rey, especially maybe if he lost his wife in a way that had something to do with the events that were going on. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because, like I said, it to me it would change his character a little
I
bit.
think it does change his
Yeah,
character. I don't know that it makes him more relatable. Like I don't think it changes his character in a good way. Similar to like
yeah,
how we were talking about Obi-Wan, and if they're gonna do an Obi-Wan movie post Episode 3 but pre Episode 4, there's not much they can do to him that makes sense without ruining his character.
yeah,
Like if you give him a love interest, that's just not who he is. Um,
yeah,
and I feel the same way about Luke. I mean, uh, I haven't heard that story, so I'd have to look into it, I guess. But I mean, we talked
yeah,
about that before Last Jedi came out, and there was so much speculation about, if Rey was his or something like that. And we talked about
yeah,
how that would imply that he had to have at least been with somebody, and that that's not what we want to have, or at least that was my
yeah.
opinion.
No,
That's
I
not what I would have
agree. I
wanted to see
agree.
happen. So I
Yeah,
hope not.
yeah. The story I'm reading is from. It's probably being like re-reported, but I'm reading it from Cinema Blend.
uh,
Um,
yeah, they're a real,
.com. Yeah, so
a real
yeah,
gem.
yeah. So I don't know. But like I said, we have to take it with a grain of salt. But like I said, it would just be interesting. Now my thinking is. This is just an excerpt from a book. So I was thinking immediately, I thought to myself, well, this could just be a scene where it could be like maybe Luke thinking about what his life could have been like if this
Yeah.
happened or that happened, and then he saw himself like standing, staring off in the distance with his wife by his side, or something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, it
because
could be
it's
like a
like
force
you
illusion
never
or
know
something. There's so much like it could be.
exactly
Yeah, I mean, but
because it's from a
that's
book, you just don't know.
weird. That's too form actually reading it because but that's a little too weird for me.
Yeah, I agree. So
Like, just
and then
keep
to
it, leave
me,
it. Like the movie, I get the movie was originally like 4 hours long, like an hour and a half off, and they had to obviously, but like that's not an example of something. I don't know. It's just weird. That's the movie is,
yeah,
I'm sure, better in some ways because you cut it down, and that would have made the movie totally different. You know what I mean? Like they don't normally change the whole theme just by deleting 14 scenes. and that would literally change everything about The Last Jedi.
Yeah, and that's why I listened to the audio book of the novelization of The Force Awakens, and there were parts in The Force Awakens that I felt in that novelization where I was like, man, this kind of the way that they're describing it and the way that they're going about it changes how it like if you were to do it the same way in the movie, it would change the movie,
Yeah, I
and
remember
that's
that
like
from the prequel trilogy books. I think it was like the
yeah,
episode 1 novelization. There was like a scene in the book that wasn't in the movie at all, and it totally changed everything. At least,
yeah,
about it was about like Qui-Gon or something like that, and I just
oh
thought it was
right,
crazy. And uh, I don't know. That doesn't just change Last Jedi though. That changes like everything about Luke from a like a
yeah,
fundamental level. It's a little bit too much. So I'd really have to read it because usually those novelizations are the studio giving the script to an author and the author forming a book around the script before the movie's even
yeah,
done. So like the
yeah,
movies and the books don't come out in line with each other just because they release around the same time because it takes
yeah.
a year or longer for a book to be written, or at least a book of any
Mhm.
quality. So they might have had obviously a long uncut script for Last Jedi, handed that script off to someone like R.A. Salvatore, and said, "All right, write a book about this," and there would be stuff that ended up getting cut from the movie that he would have no way of knowing would get cut. But that's
Mhm.
not an example of something like that. That's totally, uh, you know, like I said, series changing, saga altering. That's a
Yeah,
little bit
exactly.
crazy.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and then I thought to myself, like you said, I'm gonna have to wait until I get my hands on it and then read it
Yeah.
myself because I wonder what else, like, not necessarily got changed, but just how they describe things. So, like, even in the Force Awakens novel, there's like that scene with Snoke, towards the end where Rey is like around circling Kylo. And in that scene in the movie, all we kind of see is Rey circling Kylo, and that's kind of it. But in the book, that part reads, Snoke is whispering to Rey to kill Kylo,
Yeah.
but Rey doesn't know where the impulse is coming from. She
Right.
just
Right.
feels this impulse to kill him, but Snoke is the one. So, like, if we would have known that in the movie, I feel like that would
Oh,
have
it's a big
changed a
difference.
lot of. Yeah, that's such a huge difference,
Yeah.
and it would have given us more of an idea of like how powerful Snoke was going into the next movie with how
Exactly.
manipulative he was with Rey and Kylo in the first place, because that was like the whole big thing in the Last Jedi was like he was manipulating events between them to
Right.
bring Rey to him. So if we would have known like that was happening all the way from the end of that movie, you know what I mean? It just would have changed things. So like I said, like the novelizations, like they're not like I've read the novelization of the Force Awakens, and then of like you said, it was the prequels, but it was just Revenge of the Sith. I didn't read the first two. I
Yeah.
just and then in Revenge of the Sith, I just remember there being parts in the novel with Anakin that felt like they were just giving they like I kind of liked them a little bit because they were giving like a little bit more depth to his
Yeah,
character,
they're a little bit more like you can
which was
see their
nice.
thoughts. They're more introspective, and
Exactly.
yeah, that's what I liked about the
Exactly.
episode 1 novelization. It was like you can see people's thoughts and words. And I remember when the Force Awakens one came out, Carly and I were grocery shopping, and I like picked it up off the shelf at Stop and Shop and opened it to a random page, and it was the page where Han goes out to see Kylo on the bridge, and it was
Oh
from
man, that's so
Chewie's
funny.
perspective, and it was like really
Oh
heavy. It
wow.
was like telling about like what Chewie was thinking and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, I can't
Oh
like
man, yeah,
can't do this. So I mean, it's
that's
cool to
nuts.
get
I
those
remember that. Yeah,
internal things,
yeah.
but also
That
sometimes you
part
get
was
stuff
super
that
heavy.
they, as filmmakers, decided to remove for like a reason. Like
Hmm.
probably the Snoke whispering thing, they probably wanted to keep that suspense before The Last Jedi came out. And then in the
Yeah,
book, they don't know that because the dude gets the book stuff so far in advance that
yeah,
he
exactly.
he can't know that. So that's one thing
Yeah,
that's weird about Disney's grip on the franchise is that the books and the movies are separate entities still. Like, and they
Yeah.
kind of have to be if you want the books to continue to be good. And
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
a
I
different
also
situation.
realize that you have to keep them separate if you still want the movies to feel the same way.
Right.
Because
Just suspenseful
I
and
was
stuff.
making the mistake of thinking that because of the fact that Disney has been pulling like the books are a lot different than the movies in the sense that like the new canon books pull a lot of little tidbits from the movies so that way they feel familiar and they feel like you can feel the continuity in them like alongside the movies, but
Right.
it's not the other way around. So there's
Right.
nothing
Exactly.
from the books going into the movies, which I completely did not think about at all. So when I was going into The Last Jedi, I'm thinking, oh, this happened in this book, this happened in this book, we should be
I
seeing
tried
this
telling you
character
that
come up.
before it
And this
came,
is,
before it
I
happened.
know you
I
tried
said this
telling
is
me
how Star Wars
that.
has worked for 40 years, and you're like, it's gonna be so cool. Finn is this lady's son. Shut up! It's not gonna happen. It's not how it's ever worked.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works, and it's not disappointing because you're right. It makes it so that way you can enjoy the books like for what they are, and like I said, you pull those familiar characters and settings from the movies, so that way you can draw like the reader in with something that they know, and then add in all these fillers and new stuff. But then, like I said, the movies they're completely a separate thing from the book, so. But I would say like if you get chances to read the novelizations of the movies, you should just because. But at the same time, like I'm saying, like don't make it the movie because
Right?
they're
They're
not
different.
yeah, like you said, sometimes the timelines of when the author is getting the information or to write the book and then when the movie comes out and all that, like it doesn't
They're
always
not
add up. So
working
like you
together. They
said,
both have very big
exactly.
jobs to do. So the directors and writers and producers of the movie aren't hanging out with the author swapping ideas
Yeah,
because they're
exactly.
trying to make a
Yeah.
movie. And the author, writing a book isn't a small task. Otherwise, everyone would do it.
Right.
So it's everyone's busy. So
Especially when the
they're
book you're
working from
writing
two different
already,
stacks.
yeah, like when that book you're writing already has beginning, middle, and main characters, like main plot line. You know what I mean? So like really, like it seems like it would even be more difficult to write because
Oh,
it's not like you're just
absolutely.
coming up with everything from scratch. Like you're having to fill, and not only that, but the overlord who's making sure that you're doing it the way they
Right, you're
want
doing
is
it for
Disney.
Disney. Right.
So it's not like you're just like, oh hey, like I'm gonna put out no, it's like they're making sure that you're going along with what they want at the same time. It's like you need to produce quality. So like I can't imagine it's an easy task. So that's to me it's kind of like if you want to read them for sure, but that's what the movies are for anyway, so you don't have to read them. But I do enjoy at least getting those, like you said, like that part in the Force Awakens where you get Chewie's perspective of what's
Yeah.
that's like. I mean, that's crazy because you couldn't do that in a movie. Like,
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
you could
not
obviously,
with it staying a Star Wars movie. Like you could do that
yeah,
in a movie
exactly.
where you have an internal dialogue, but that's not Star Wars.
But what would Chewie's internal dialogue
Yeah,
even
it'd be a bunch of
sound
grunts. If you all of a sudden heard Chewie speaking English on screen, it would be like when
Oh my
Pikachu did it.
god,
You'd just be like,
that
"What
was
is happening?"
the most cringe-worthy moment I've seen in a long time. That was so cringe-worthy that I was just like, "Oh my god!" I had to like look away from my phone when I saw that on Facebook, and that was going around that Pikachu thing. I was just like, "Oh my god, did he really just talk? Like, why would they even?" Ugh, that was awful.
Ooh,
Yeah,
there's
that would be the
MVP.
same thing. That would be the same thing with Chewie. If Chewie somehow had some like running inner monologue that we could understand, that would be awful. I would like turn the movie off at that point. Like this is no longer Star Wars. This has become some other thing now. It's
It
become
would
some
be
like
like, I mean, KOTOR, you've got the Wookiee, and I don't know. It's a weird concept in
yeah, that's
general.
fine though because
Video
in the
games are
book I
different.
was reading, this one like one armed Wookiee, like big gray, like one armed Wookiee. He like you get at one point in time you get his like inner monologue or like what he's thinking, but whenever they're like talking to someone else, it's just like they made whatever noise, or they like whatever this noise, or that. Like they don't say what they're actually saying, but like when it is like an inner, but that's like once again those are books,
Right, it's
and
a
then
book, yeah.
also once again I will say in all the books I've read, I don't ever remember like I don't ever remember getting Chewie's like inner monologue, and if it was ever Chewie's whatever, it was more like his feelings about things. It was never like Chewie then said this, then that, then this,
Yeah,
then
no.
that.
The only one I had was, like I said, that one time I read that little bit of the Force Awakens one. So I think that, and I've got like the Scoundrels book and stuff like that, where there's a lot of Chewie, but it's like you said, it's like Chewie grunted quizzically or something like that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's all
It's never
different.
like what he's, and even like I said, when it's his inner like whatever, it's more of like, he's feeling this way or that
Right.
way about something. It's not like actual like words. So like even like in the books that I just recently read, when him and Han are going to try to liberate Kashyyyk. In that, like when he's talking to Han about it, it's like more Han like, oh come on man, like I know like we need to go do this but we can't, and then it's like Chewie grunts or whatever, then Han's like, oh and that's why Han and Chewie are so important to each other, because like Han's almost like Chewie's mouthpiece, where like we don't know what Chewie's even thinking about, but
No,
we
he's like
always
Ash
have
and
Han
Pikachu.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
can say, whatever. I
The-
mean, you see it
he's
in the
the other
trailer,
end of the
that means
conversation.
yes. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Chewie's designed to be that way, and it works, so to ruin that would be a big mistake.
Which is interesting because even in The Last Jedi, I think that's why before the movie even came out, I kind of was like, oh, or most people were like, oh, this whole relationship between Chewie and the Porgs, is kind of like we didn't get that in The Last Jedi. This whole like, because throughout the movie, whenever we see Chewie, he's kind of like silently dealing with whatever's in front of him. He's not
Right.
really interacting really with anyone in particular, and when he does, it's not like ever like we see like he does with Han, because obviously no one's Han to him. So it's
Right.
just like we kind of didn't necessarily lose that, but it's obvious like now Chewie's kind of like a different, not a different person, but we lost that side of him. Like so now the Porgs and like this comical side is what we're still attached to, because we still have that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting seeing Chewie without Han. I think it would be interesting to explore. Like I think I would like to see it in a comic book, maybe like exploring a little bit more about how Chewie's doing without Han, because it would probably
That'd be
wouldn't
some hard
anything
dialogue to write.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why I think it would be funny to see him like maybe like meeting up with Lando again after all these years somehow, or like something like that, some like little off story where he can
Right.
interact with some character that is either new or old or something, but just to see kind of like how he's doing like without Han, which is I just think that'd be interesting, just because to me their relationship is probably one of the most like important relationships in Star Wars altogether. Like it really like
Oh yeah,
they're-
easy.
from the beginning they're friends, and at the very end they're friends. Like nothing like that one thing is the constant within Star Wars.
Right.
Chewie and Han are friends, and
Yeah,
that's
R2 and
always
3PO and Chewie and Han.
yeah, exactly. And those are like really important like relationships, I think, within Star Wars, that like set foundations for like why the movies work. Like
Right.
because there's it's funny watching like sci-fi movies from that era and wondering like, man, how did this one work? Because there were so many that didn't. Like that really were just so bad. Like the effects were bad. Like, and like if you look at Star Wars objectively, it was like it wasn't too different from those. But
No,
like there's
it's
these
just the
specific
music
things.
and the relationships that make
Exactly.
it different. I mean, it's a different
the music,
experience.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, without John Williams, there's no Star Wars. And I guess
Yeah.
that's the one bit of news that came out this week. I guess John Williams came out and said Episode 9 will be his last Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the
that's
dude's
right.
like 88
that's
years
funny. I
old,
forgot
but,
about that. That's true. So I was wondering if it was more that than it was he's just kind of like, all right,
over
I'm
it.
kind of finishing the
I
franchise
mean,
now. I'm
I
kind of
know he
over it.
said a couple of years ago that he had never listened to it, and then he did, and he's like, "That's not particularly good." Like, I don't know why people like it. Like and that's pretty funny because obviously
He's
it's
funny, man. John
genre
Williams funny
defining.
shit.
But yeah, he's getting up there. He's never seemed as like resistant to the Star Wars fame to me as someone like Harrison Ford does or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's done after Episode 9.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the
Carly.
music for Last Jedi was pretty good. Um, and The Force Awakens, I think, was probably one of my favorite Star Wars soundtracks up to this point.
I
I
agree,
still listen to
especially
The Force
because of the
Awakens.
trailers, like remixes on the original themes.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's why I like it so much. Not to mention, um, Kylo's theme song is probably the more I listen to Kylo's theme, the more I really, really like it. It's like super. It's so dark, but at the same time, like it's it's so different from Vader's and
Yeah,
Palpatine's. Uh, but it's like at the same time, like he uses those like I don't know John Williams. That's why it makes me laugh that he says like his stuff. He's like, oh, it's not particularly good because
yeah,
I'm like
because it
I don't
really
know like
is.
because it really to me is like so good. I'm like he
Yeah.
uses these like concurrent themes
Yeah, you
throughout
can
all
see
these
like little
music.
hints and stuff, and there's
Yeah,
little twinges of
it's
familiarity. Yeah,
almost like
it's
watching
really unique.
it's almost like watching a musical where it's
Yeah,
like the very first act of a musical or the first like song of a musical is gonna have like these like key themes within the
yeah. There's gonna
music
be
that are
like
gonna
a
come back.
three-word phrase that's repeated,
Yeah,
by key characters throughout the whole thing, and you're like, aha,
exactly.
there's that three-word phrase
Yeah,
again. Yeah, it's just like that with
exactly.
him. You get like a little progression where it's the same
Yeah.
callback every
Even in
time.
Rogue One, even in the Rogue One soundtrack, which was done by someone else, it wasn't
Yeah,
John Williams.
no, there are plays
Even
on it though.
Yeah, there are plays on the original soundtrack in certain songs, and even those like they're really cool. But John Williams, like I said in the Force Awakens soundtrack, I don't know, like I don't know what it was about the Force Awakens. If it was just because it had been so long since we had gotten a Star Wars movie, or
Oh no, the Force
because it was
Awakens
just like
soundtrack is I like it better than
everything
the
about that
prequels.
movie.
It's
Yeah,
it's
everything
one of
about
my
that
favorite
movie.
ones. I
Yeah,
mean, nothing will be Empire, but because
yeah.
Empire has like super dark themes, it's got super, jaunty themes, it's got a lot of battles, so the soundtrack to Empire is ridiculous. And then Jedi has some really high moments too, but
That's true.
and then A New Hope's
Even though,
obviously the
yeah,
OG, but Force Awakens
yeah.
has some really really good.
I think A New Hope is really good, like because it has the scene
The
where they're
Tatooine stuff.
getting the Tatooine stuff, and then the scene where oh gosh, they're like either running away from the Death Star after Obi-Wan gets killed, or but there's like one song specifically, and it's just like I just always love the way that the melody goes as far as like the difference, like the dissonance in the notes that it
Yeah.
hits. It's just awesome. Like he does such a great job of just creating tension with music. And I think
Yeah, I mean,
that's what
Empire's
and
got the Bespin music. It's got Hoth. It's
yeah.
got,
Oh, that's true.
uh,
The Bespin music is awesome.
yeah, it's
And
got a
then
lot of
and then
really
I think
good.
it's awesome that each character has their theme.
That's what I was
And
gonna
I think
say. Rey's theme is
that's
really
really
strong,
cool.
and I think that's part of what
Yeah.
makes the Force Awakens one so good. Is that Rey's theme is almost it's up there with Leia's, and that says a lot. Because Leia's is
Yeah,
really good.
hers is awesome. Ray's I can always hear. Like hers is just like
Oh,
it's
that
so
and
good.
Leia's, they're distinctive.
Leia's is awesome too. Yeah, that's true. Like Leia's, it's like, um, when I play Battlefront, whenever I hear Leia's, like I get like the feels. Like I
Yeah.
can't, like
Oh,
you can't, I
absolutely.
can't help it. Like it doesn't even matter
Ooh,
what
that's
the
better.
situation is or what the setting is. But if I hear Leia's theme, like I get that feeling because I can see her like peeking out from like behind the corner,
Right,
and
right.
and it's just like you can't not see that, and he did such a good job, or even Darth Maul, like
Yep.
he's so tied to that you know, to that
Duel
song.
of the Fates, yeah.
The Duel of Fates, yeah. Oh my gosh! Like all I hear the song, I see the sabers like popping out where
Oh
he
yeah.
like puts down the one hand and the other one. It's just that
Yeah, they drop
you
their
can't
cloaks.
not think
With
of that.
this.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. That was like I say, like there were those moments in Star Wars that you just like remember. And that
Definitive
was
Star
one
Wars
of them.
moments.
Like that was like, and that's why I agree with Mark Hamill. Like I don't think Darth Maul was a wasted villain, but I would have liked to see more of him. I mean, when he did die when I was watching the movie at the time and I was younger and all that stuff, it made sense. I'm like, oh, like he died, like he beat the bad guy, you know, it's fine. But then, like as the movie went on, not that Grievous and Dooku didn't like make up for it.
Oh,
I mean,
they're just
Dooku
no
I
Maul.
always loved as a but nobody's Maul is all like to me. He's like nobody's Vader, nobody's Palpatine. But Maul is like, he's up there, dude. Like, he's so cool. Like, he's such a cool bad guy that it was like, oh man, like, it sucks that we didn't get to see, like, more of him. Like, he barely even spoke either, which was like,
that's part of his, you know, mystique.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he didn't say, like, much, but, like, he put in, like, what, like.
It's like Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you know, Boba
dead.
Fett's funny, because, like, Boba Fett to me, I always liked, but I never really understood like why people absolutely like love him. Like I get why people like him so much. I mean, he's cool. His armor obviously is like
he looks awesome.
I think the first time I was watching a documentary, and I think the first time Boba Fett ever appeared was actually at like a parade for Star Wars. It was like at some like thing for Star Wars, and it was like a concept that character, and they had made the armor or something like that. So they're like, oh yeah, wear it and well whatever. And it had such a good response that, you know, they're like, and they had planned that he was going to be in the movie anyway, but they had such a good response. They're like, oh man, we got to figure out something to do like with this character. And like he's still like throughout the movies, like, you know, he never really, I felt like, and then when he died in the Sarlacc pit, so like
he's not dead.
weirdly, no, whatever. He's not. He's dead. I don't know. When would he ever come back?
When would he come back in the comics? I mean, in the books. He survives. What do you mean? How does he come back? He survives inside.
Well, I mean, in the new canon, is it?
I don't know.
Is he still? Yeah, that's what I mean. I was gonna say because I know like he technically like survives if we're going off the legend stuff, but I don't know. I don't know
the old canon, he's fine. He comes out and he reclaims, you know, Mandalore and.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to see. We'll see. Like I said, I don't know. We'll see, because I think like they would. I don't know. I think Disney has a lot of really good opportunities to like.
Yeah, now that Han's dead, there's no reason to bring him back. Like if in the books, it's so cool when he brings him back because Han's like, oh god damn it, like.
Yeah, right.
My worst fear is to have Boba Fett following me around again. So
exactly.
Han's dead. They don't. This. But yeah, in the books it was really cool when he came back. I like Boba Fett. I'm one of those
The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I think they kind of made it so that way there really isn't a need to bring back some of those characters. Now that you said, when you said that, I thought to myself, like, you know what, you're right. Like, because of the way they changed the story, like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi in particular, completely changed.
Yeah, they could have brought Lando in as that hacker. We've talked about that, but that's really it. Like other than that, they don't need to bring, you know, Wedge in or whoever you could possibly think of. I can't think of anybody else that would still be alive.
And I think that was the whole idea, was that this was by the end of Episode 9, we were supposed to be dealing with a whole new...
Yeah, the conflict is a different conflict now from what it was in Jedi.
It's supposed to be like a whole new thing, a whole new cast of people as far as main characters. Like, you know, we basically have lost everyone except Princess
and
Leia
and the droids.
and the droids, which they'll never go anywhere. But we still, I mean, by the end of it, the only one we're going to have left is Chewie. I mean...
I think Chewie's going to die.
Yeah, maybe. I hope not. I
think he will, because there's... I don't think he cares. Well, I mean, I think he cares, but I don't think he's driven to outlive Han by that long. I think that he'll probably sacrifice himself for something dramatic. But
yeah, I keep wondering.
I also think we'll see more Luke. I think we're going to see some Force Ghost Luke.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see some Force Ghost Luke with Rey and all that stuff. I think we're going to see Rey in more than. I think we're going to see more than one Jedi. I think she's going to, by the time we, because like I said, the only two things it could be is either we're going to catch up with them right after the events of what we saw. Like we're going to see them, like maybe a day or like that day. You know,
or
ahead of time, or
later.
it's going to be way into the future. Yeah, like so, it's going to be either one. There's not going to be any in between. So I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think we might see Rey with like some other Jedi with her, and like gathered up, you know, some Force users, and you know, just trying to spread around whatever she's learned in the books, mixed with her now understanding of what could go wrong with a Jedi, because now she got that from Luke. So. You know, that's going to be interesting in itself to see. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of like how John Williams goes out on this last one. If he, you know, I mean, he's a great composer. We know that. So
right.
It'll be great to see if he kind of like does bring back certain themes, or you know what themes he brings back, if any, because we can always expect him to bring some things back. But you know, like I said, my favorite thing about Star Wars, and most people say favorite thing about Star Wars and any movie that he's in general. Like, I mean, any movie that John Williams has done is typically one of like my favorite movies, and it has nothing to do with
even
like,
the soundtracks are like definitive. Like you can, I haven't seen E.T. for 20 years, and I can whistle you the song right now, like or Jaws or. I mean, I knew the Jaws song before I'd ever seen Jaws. you just know his music.
And,
Close Encounters.
And that's what's funny is that, exactly. And that's what's funny is that, like, all the movies he does are, right? Oh, man.
They're all defined by him.
Yeah, that's a good one. Exactly. All those movies are, and they're all fantastic films. So, it'll be weird to have Star Wars movies without John Williams after 9, but. Like you said, he's getting up there, and it can't be forever. So
yeah, I mean, it was noticeable in Rogue One that he wasn't there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like, there were parts of Rogue One where it was passable, but in general, there were so many missed opportunities, like where his music would have made an impact. Like like the scene where she's reunited with her dad, or the scene with Saw Gerrera, or like there's so many things where you just notice what you're missing.
Yeah, even the scene, there was a couple scenes where I noticed it big time, and it was small stuff. Like, as they're about to take off, and they're having that dialogue between Cassian and K2, and he's like, oh, you know what the probability of her, like, wanting to use the, gun on you,
right.
being hot. Like, that scene, like, as they go to fly off or whatever, like, music cues up, and I just remember thinking, like, that doesn't feel right.
It's not Star Wars.
Moment. Like, exactly. I was listening, like, it's not John Williams, and I'm like, I don't know what John Williams would have put there, but it wasn't going to be that. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's weird because you think about like what each person's theme would have sounded like. Saw Gerrera would have had a theme, and Cassian would have had a theme. It's just, it's different, and they do have themes. They're just not John Williams themes. And
exactly, and they're not
one
done
track
well enough where.
Yeah, they're imposters almost. There's one track where it sounds good, and it's towards the end during the climax, I think. But there's some where it's like jarringly bad too, like where they're climbing the shaft in the right before the climax. That part is terrible because of the music. Like, it almost makes it unwatchable. So it's really.
I agree with you. Yeah,
it's a big difference. And when you talk about the difference between a good movie and a bad movie, John Williams could be that difference. I mean, how much worse would the prequels have been? And I'm not a prequel hater, but like Episode 2 without John Williams would have been not very good. I mean, or at least certainly not anywhere near as good. It would have been like
Episode 1,
tier.
Episode 2, and Episode 3 wouldn't have been anything.
I mean, the
think about
Mustafar
Episode 1
scenes,
without John Williams.
Yeah. The Duel of the Fates, the Geonosis stuff, the Mustafar stuff.
I was gonna say,
it's all totally
the Geonosis
different.
stuff, even the stuff on frickin' Tatooine with the pod racing and stuff. Things like that. Like,
and you hear some of Luke's theme and Anakin's theme. You have Shmi has her theme. You have Padme. Like, all that stuff is totally different. So it's just you can't even there's no
and like
level
you
of
said,
respect
you did
that's enough
feel the
for it.
lack of it in Rogue One.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
in Rogue
it's
One,
noticeable.
I agree. Like you did know it was noticeable,
And
and like I said, there
I'm
were
sure it will
times.
be in Solo as well.
And I mean, because yeah, he's not doing that one, and I think like the difference. I was just gonna say, it's funny you bring up Solo, because I was gonna say the difference between I think what Rogue One and Solo are gonna do is that like Rogue One was such a different experience, because like you said, it's all like we know basically what's gonna happen. We know who's involved. We know
Right.
like what like it's a really familiar whatever with these new characters that we kind of like have to get to know. And we know
Yeah,
we're gonna lose
it's
them
like seeing
anyway,
a comic book movie
so it's just
where
kind of
you
like
already are
exactly.
familiar with the origin story and you already know the comic book character inside and out. It's you just
Exactly.
go because you've never gotten to see it before. So I think that
yeah,
it's
exactly.
gonna be like that for me. Where like I remember loving Spider-Man as a kid, and then you finally get a Spider-Man movie. You're like, okay, I know everything about this better than sometimes it feels like the makers of the movies themselves know it, but you get to see
Yeah.
played out on screen what you've read on comics pages for
Yeah.
years and years and years. So I think it'll be like that, where we know everything about Solo. There's not much they can
Yeah.
do to surprise us from a perspective of who he is, but we're gonna get to see it. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for that.
I think,
for the experience.
I think as far as the music goes, in Solo, like they're gonna bring back, like you said, there's the Bespin
themes.
theme, and
Yeah.
like there's the
Which I think the Bespin theme might even be called Lando's theme, so that would make sense.
That's true.
But yeah, it's
Is it
just
called
it's
Lando's
tough.
theme? I wonder if it is.
I don't know.
That
I
would
don't
make
have
sense
that
if it. That would
CD
make
anymore.
sense if it was, because it does play as he walks out onto the bridge,
platform,
if
yeah.
I'm not mistaken. Yeah, onto the platform. But yeah. So I don't know. Like I'd be interested to see how that movie is affected by the music as opposed to Rogue One, because like I said, there are times that like legitimately stick in my brain. Like even the part where Saw Gerrera says it's a trap.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, like, there should have been something there. Like,
Yeah.
there should have been something.
Or I mean, how noticeable was it when Vader comes out and Vader's music doesn't play? Like you're
Right?
like, wait a second, that's
like,
not even Vader.
That was one of the first things I noticed. Was like, why isn't his music playing?
Right.
Like, it's like it's huge disappointment. Or like even when Tarkin was standing there on the bridge, I was expecting to hear like even hints of Palpatine's theme.
No.
Not full on Palpatine's theme.
Not even
but just
not
hints,
even a taste.
Just a little bit of like, all right, this is like a callback to like the dark side from like whether I don't know. It's just like there were just moments that just like you said just didn't like, especially Darth Vader's moment where he walks out and you're like, there's no
Vader music, and then he makes this stupid pun. You're like, that's not even Vader. That's some tall Russian dude in a Vader suit. Like,
you gotta love it.
Yeah,
you gotta love it.
it's just not Star Wars. I don't know. It's weird. If seeing the Han Solo movie would be like seeing a comic book movie, then seeing Rogue One was like reading a crappy comic book based on a universe that you like. Like, we all read Star Wars comic books and we all like them because they tell us extra stories. But like some of them aren't very good, and we only read them because they're Star Wars. And I feel like that's what Rogue One is to me. Whereas Han Solo is the comic book movie of the comic book that you love. The Rogue One was the comic book of the movie that you love. And and you just lose some stuff in translation sometimes. I mean, Rogue One has qualities that I'm not going to take away from it. Like I own the movie. I have watched it, and I will continue to watch it. But it's just, we don't have to call it a Star Wars movie anymore. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I will say that if like honestly, if it did fall short anywhere, and this might be bad, why John Williams leaving is bad news, is that I did feel like it did fall short, most noticeably within the music. Because not that it was
that's because
bad,
there's no way to do John Williams. Like, you can't, once he's gone, like, the world is a darker place. There's literally no way to replicate it, just like Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford. He brings that level to it, and
exactly,
it's not even worth faking it, because you're just gonna disrespect him. Like, there's no reason to try.
So, it's almost like, should we just be accepting that Star Wars is going to change a little bit in the future? because of the fact that John Williams is not going to be doing anymore, or can they hopefully somehow manage to keep that feeling of grandeur that he brings to Star Wars? And
I mean, I think that's just we
yeah.
talked about losing the magic, and I think that's just a little bit more of the magic that you'll lose. Like
Yeah.
it's not like it's past that point where it's a sweet memory for us and we get to think about it in those terms nostalgically. But like anyone who hasn't been born yet will never experience Star Wars the way we did. And
Yeah, exactly. And
I
that's
think
probably
that,
one of those things that goes along with that.
yeah, it's just part of that transition.
Because they are working on a new trilogy, and I could understand 100% why he wouldn't want to work on this new trilogy. Like,
yeah,
I could get that. Like,
I think Star Wars
like,
will
oh,
get to the point where exactly where Lucas won't even watch it. Like I honestly think Star Wars will get to that point where I mean he watched Force Awakens, he was like, wow, that was pretty cool, but it's not what I would have done, and I know why people don't like it. And then he watched Last Jedi and he said something similar, and I could see Star Wars getting to the point where he's like, I'm not going to watch it.
He was much more disappointed with than Force
Awakens. So I mean, if it's going to get to the point where that's the case, then you know, how much is it not true. Star Wars anymore?
That's true. I can imagine that happening with this next trilogy, because to me, like this trilogy that we're in now was really about wrapping up characters and storylines that he had started himself.
Right.
So like it's kind of like, to me, like exactly, like I could even see like Lawrence Kasdan and, you know, main players in the Star Wars universe like being like, all right, you know, I'm done, because why keep going with it? And I mean, I know those paychecks from Disney are huge, so that's also a reason to keep going.
But so are royalties.
Most of these guys yeah, exactly. But most of these guys started with Star Wars when it was nothing at all, and
right. And that's what I was
going
to say is they started with Star Wars as a creative endeavor. That's not the case anymore. Like it's not an outlet for that same level of creativity.
Which is why George Lucas didn't want to do it anymore, which is completely understandable. You know what I mean? It's completely understandable. And the thing is, it's that I think I still and I know a lot of other people do as well, but I still watch Star Wars for those characters that I still love. Right. So I might get to a point, and luckily, The Force Awakens was good enough to give me new characters to be drawn to. So like, as well as with like the prequels and stuff. So like with a new trilogy, you know, like you said, I might even get to the point where all of a sudden I'm not going to see Star Wars movies much anymore, and just kind of watching what I have and reading what I have, because these new characters and new stories just might not interest me. You know,
I don't know that I'll get to that point, but I do think
I don't know.
Lucas
I don't think
will.
that'll ever happen, but you know, exactly. I don't know if that'll ever happen to me, but you know, it is a possibility for other fans who might not be.
Oh,
you know,
that's already happened for other fans.
At that point now, exactly. Yeah. You're at that point now where all of a sudden, you know, especially after The Last Jedi, with being such a movie that split fans so hardcore, there are fans that are like, after The Last Jedi, I know I've seen people who are like, I'm never going to go see a Star Wars movie again. Like, they're just kind of going downhill now. And I mean, I don't feel that way, but, you know, there are people who do. So we might already be at that point where people are kind of starting to drop off, and who knows, maybe that's the reason why.
Not to the point where Disney's going to lose money, though, so it's not going to change anything.
Disney will never lose money on
for
anything.
every fan Star Wars loses, it gains 3 more 7-year-olds.
Exactly,
so, I mean,
because
Star Wars is
because
Hydra
that's
in that
who
way.
It's about anyway.
Right.
That's what
so
I mean, like,
that we have to respect. That Star Wars has gotten to the point where it's so big that we do have to hand it over to a different generation of fans, and just like they have to hand it over to a different generation of creators. And I think that's unique to Star Wars. Like, well, Lord of the Rings kind of went through that too, but in a way worse way. But like Harry Potter's not going to have that. You know what I mean? And I mean, not, at least not for another 50 years. And it's Star Wars. I mean, it wasn't the dawn of cinema when Star Wars came out, but it was the dawn of like the special effects the way that they were in Star Wars. And you know, Star Wars was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. So like it was the first of its kind.
You could definitely say that movie making was like completely changing at that point.
Right.
Like,
so Star Wars came out as like sort of the, you know, flag bearer of that generation, and then all of a sudden you've got it changing again and changing how movies are made now. So I think
Yeah.
that Star Wars is designed to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
that
that's
way, but
very
we
true.
just happen to be part of the transition period. And
Yeah.
um, like there's no disrespect for that. Like I said, go make your money, but
Yeah.
I will have, a nostalgic, sentimental place in my heart
Yeah, and
for
you know
what it
what? And I
was.
think that makes sense because, like, I was talking to my dad the other day, and he hasn't seen the newest one. He hasn't seen The Last Jedi, and he was like, he said he just recently saw The Force Awakens, and it's so funny because he knew. I told him my son's name is Finn, before he saw The Force Awakens and like didn't really know anything about the
Right.
movie. And then of course he sees the movie and he's like, ah, that's why you're so. I was like, yeah. He was like, I guess he finally like went and saw the movie, or he bought the movie or something, and he like freaked out when he realized that that's where the name came from. But yeah, like me and him were talking about it, and he was like, oh, the way you're kind of feeling about all this stuff. He's like, when the prequels came out,
That's
that's
how
what
he
I
felt.
was like,
Exactly.
because he was
That's how
such a
my
big
dad
fan
felt
of
about Last Jedi too, where he was like, "Yeah,
yeah,
I liked it. We went to see it together." He said, "I liked it, but it's not my favorite one." And I think that
yeah,
will never happen again. And my dad doesn't
mm,
like watch movies.
yeah,
Like I'm pretty sure
yeah,
the last like 10 movies he's seen have been spread out over the last 5 years. So I mean, it's not
yeah,
something he does. And still, I remember as a kid, like Star Wars was something we shared, and it's
yeah,
interesting to know like what will it be when I share it with my kid. And it's just
exactly,
different. It's just the way Star Wars goes. And Star Wars is,
yeah,
like I said, it's the one franchise that has that claim. Lord of the Rings kind of did it
yeah,
a little bit, but not well. And Star Wars is a
yeah.
game changer. I mean, it makes Lord of the Rings look like nothing. So it's really
Yeah,
it's
the
unique.
only fandom I can think of that comes even close to Harry Potter or to Star Wars is Harry Potter. Like that's
Right,
the
and
only
and
other
even
one.
in terms
There's
of like the
nothing
money it's
even,
worth and the
yeah,
creator,
nothing
the
comes as
influence the
close to
creator
that.
has. But the out of those two, that's really it. And Harry Potter was, not only defined by our generation, but also by, the way the world changed at that exact time. Like the internet's
Yeah, exactly.
dawning, and all these different fan fictions, and the movies came
Yeah,
out right when movies had the capability of being as magical as the Harry Potter movies are. So like there's
hmm
so much that happened right at that time, and Star Wars kind of struck gold in that way too. Like I don't think Star Wars would have
yeah.
worked if it came out in 1940, and I don't think it would have worked as well if it came out in 1990.
No,
It's just
no, it
that
came out when it was
it was
exactly when it was
perfect. It was
supposed
when
to.
it was needed to
Yeah.
come out. So
Yeah, the Western was on its way out, and people
right,
wanted something different, and there was this, idea of something like wanting optimism and having this, so it did. It came out when it needed to come out, but it is interesting. But yeah, guys, that's just about our time for this week. But yeah, really cool stuff. I'm actually really excited to see what else is going to happen in the futures for Star
yeah,
Wars. Like I said, like I said, he was saying that for him when we would go sit and because the prequels came out when I would go, and I think that summer I went and saw it with him. And he remembers seeing the second one, Attack of the Clones, with me, and he was just like so like, oh man, like this is just so disappointing.
right,
And I
right,
was like in the theater, like, oh my god, this is so cool,
right.
So it's just kind of like I can imagine like taking my son to see whatever trilogy is gonna be out by the time he can see a Star Wars movie,
Right.
and like thinking like, oh man, I can't believe this, but he's probably gonna be in the seat next to me like
Right,
freaking
just
out,
crying. Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, I
it's that
agree.
that's kind of how it's gonna go. So
Except not for
so
us because like we like Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff. So we
yeah,
probably won't be
exactly.
as disappointed, but I get the people who are. But they'll still be
Yeah,
there. They'll still be shelling out hundreds and hundreds of dollars for Star Wars toys for their kids over the course of their,
yeah,
lives. So,
exactly. And I mean, and maybe in that sense, the magic of what Star Wars is won't really ever die because it
right.
really was made for kids in the first place. So, for us, it feels different, the experience is different, but our experience with Star Wars wasn't anywhere near the same as our parents' experience in Star Wars either.
Exactly.
So maybe that's the tradition of Star Wars in itself is because, like you said, what other franchise has lasted as long and been as impactful. Like, I mean,
Right.
you don't. This is an anomaly. Like, Star Wars is an outlier. Like, nothing
Right.
really
It's
is like it.
the only one. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of like it's its own thing. So like, over the years, it's eventually like it's just has to become different things. So it's just tough because like you said, we're living through kind of the transitional period right now where we can see like the difference. And plus I think it's also we went so long without anything. Now
Right.
we get so much all
We
the
also
time.
know ahead of time now, which we didn't when the prequels were coming out. Like the prequels just happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You knew a little bit in
I was
advance, but
thinking about that the other day. Like, do you remember when you were just watching, like, you're sitting and you were watching TV, and then all of a sudden there would be like a trailer for something, like,
yeah,
and you'd be like,
no,
"Oh
that
my
didn't
God, there's a
happen.
movie
I
coming
knew
out!"
because I had the Star Wars magazine, so I knew like a couple years in advance. But still, that's
Right.
it's so different from now. Now, like you get earnings reports, and you know how 10 years in advance every single
Yeah.
Marvel movie's release date. You might not know the title, but you know what's
Yeah.
coming out when.
When they
So
did that with Star Wars and with Marvel, I remember thinking, like, I don't think I like that. Like, I know,
right.
like, that's
But
kind
that's
like
just the way
people
the
in
world
movies.
is now. With social media, it's going to come out at some
Yeah.
point. And because we read everything Star Wars, our phones know we talk about Star Wars. They're going to show us those articles. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's how it works. But
But
it's a different
I
world.
kind of miss it. I miss it when you could just be like, oh, maybe this one's kind. And like even like I said, like with the Han Solo movie, I'm kind of glad. Like I know a little bit about it. I've seen the trailers, but I know way less about this than I do about the Last Jedi, which I'm really happy about because
Right.
I want it to just be like a new movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, guys, I'm excited for it. And like I
Go watch
said,
the
even though,
deleted scene that came out today. It's
oh
Finn and
yeah, the deleted.
Phasma. Finn says, it's basically Phasma facing off with Finn in front of a bunch of stormtroopers, and Finn
Mhm.
basically calls her out for uh, putting the shields down on Starkiller base. She's like, "You're a traitor." He's like, "Am I? Because you had a gun to your head and you basically became a wuss when that happened." And what do
Oh,
you think the stormtroopers would do if they knew that? And she says, "Oh, no one would believe that anyway." And then the stormtroopers kind of flinch a little bit, so she kills all of them. And then Finn chops
nah.
off her arm because it's Star Wars. So it's kind of cool. I know Ryan Johnson really liked it. I read him saying, I wish it was in the movie, but we had to cut it for length and stuff. But I will say it does, dramatically change that scene in the movie. Like she still says "you're scum" and he still says "rebel scum," but it's like a
Mhm.
totally different dialogue and a totally different experience. So go watch it. It's on the Star Wars show, which is a weekly Star Wars,
Yeah,
sanctioned
they're really
show.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, they posted it today as part of their episode, but I saw it on Facebook. If I can get it back on Facebook, I'll share it to Talking Sith. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. We'll get the other 13 deleted scenes in 3 weeks when the Blu-ray comes out anyway, if you want to wait. So.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh,
Actually, let me see if I can find it now. But yeah, that's all I got.
all right. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, all right, guys. We will check you later. Talking Sith. All things. You can find us there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And yeah, check out. Keep an eye out on Cube Gamers and things like that. Just because we're gonna be at PAX East, and hopefully we're gonna see some cool stuff there. So. I'm going to be on the lookout for Star Wars cosplays and things like that for the channel. So,
Cool,
yeah,
cool.
we will see
I
you
also
guys.
have coming down the pipeline. I've got really as limited edition as it gets swag that I'll be getting to give away to a couple winners from the Talking Sith subscribers.
Oh,
So
nice. That's awesome.
definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I know we had a couple comments tonight that I did not respond to. One
Sweet.
of them was, do you guys play Star Wars Battlefront 2015? And we did. And I think we were actually talking about maybe doing a special episode of Talking Sith in a couple weeks where we played the first Battlefront again for the episode.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that because we do have it. We did play it a lot. We've just been playing 2 because it's the new thing. But
Mhm.
that answers that question. The other comments were by Erica, and I think they were about Darth Maul. So,
Sweet.
yeah, thanks for commenting. But yeah, subscribe because I will have a super special gift soon that you won't be able to go online and buy. You won't be able to find it on eBay or Amazon or anything. It's really unique because it's being
Oh
handcrafted.
man.
So I'm excited.
Oh, I want it. Oh man. All right. Excuse me. Yeah, it sounds awesome. I can't wait to hear what it is. So, all right, guys. Well, we will check you next week on Wednesday at 8 o'clock at Talking Sith on YouTube. See you there.
Later.